I've done it again. I've done it before. I'm going to keep on doing it. I have bought another ridiculous lens for my Sony camera. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what it is. It's a bit of a busted up box, but it's a cheap lens. Okay, this is a 8mm f3.8. And this here is a ultra wide fisheye lens, actually designed for micro four thirds, but it works okay on the APS-C sensor of the A6500. So there it is. It's tiny. Look at this thing. So it is a micro four thirds 8mm fisheye f3.8. It's actually a pretty cool looking lens, and it's got these little handles on the side of it here that you can control the aperture and the focus with. It's got a screw mount on the back, but it does come with an adapter for the Sony E-mount. So you just take the lens, screw it right on in, and you're ready to go. So this lens here has got a built-in lens hood, and it's made out of aluminum. You can see the petals on the sides within the frame when you're taking a picture or shooting 1080p video. When you're shooting 4K video, you can't see them because I think it crops in the sensor a little bit more. It is a fisheye, so it's going to give you the distortion effect that a GoPro would give you, but this one gives it like super fisheye. I actually laid the camera flat on the ground and took a picture straight up at the sky, and I think I could see trees in all directions. It almost gave me like a tiny planet effect without actually needing to do all the pictures. So it makes for some very interesting pictures, and it actually has got decent image quality, and I'm going to show you guys that coming up here. It also comes with a little lens cap of sorts, which really doesn't fit very well. If you can take a good close look at that, it's just kind of junky. This lens is about 60 bucks, 60 or 70 bucks on Amazon. It comes with the E-mount adapter, so you don't have to worry about buying that separately, and the link will be down in the description if you're interested in checking it out. So the lens that I've got on the camera right now is the Sony 10 to 18mm f4. This is at 18mm. This is at 10mm. Same lens. So I'm going to go ahead and put on the 8mm, and we're going to switch to that one. And now this is with the 8mm on. So there's a huge difference. You can see in all directions as far as I can reach pretty much. And also you can see the curvature of the earth within my kitchen here. So I'm shooting in 4K, so you can't see any of the petals from the lens hood. You can actually see the corner of one right over here, but that's it. So you get a pretty clean image at 4K, but when you switch to 1080p, you get an even wider angle than this, and you see those petals. And when you're taking pictures, you can pretty much see all four of the petals. So let me switch over to 1080p. And now you can see petals on both sides. You can see the crop of the image circle that is projecting out onto the sensor, and you can even see the fuzz from my microphone getting into the field of view there. So when I first mounted this lens onto the camera, I noticed that it was upside down. But if you just keep on twisting it, it actually slides within that screw mount and will let you line up the petals just right so they stay out of the shot for as much of the time as possible. So you can see on the sides of the image that there are the petals from the lens hood, and I'm going to see if I can't cut those off in another video. So stay tuned for that. Alright, let's see how the video performs on this. This is at 4K. Notice how you can't see the petals in the frame. And I am shooting this wide open at f3.8. Image stabilization has been set back to 8mm for the in-body image stabilization. And I'm holding this out in front of me on a tripod just to give you guys an idea of what this looks like. The minimum focus is theoretically pretty close, so I'm just gonna keep holding this closer to my face and see when it gets into focus. Right now I'm about 4 fingers away from the lens there. And then that's it, full arms extension. And now I'm gonna switch it over to 1080p so you guys can really see how wide and crazy this thing gets. All right, now we're in 1080p. As you notice, you can see the petals. You can probably also see the microphone up there, but it is much wider now, and it looks pretty ridiculous. Here's another fun fact. Watch when I turn this around and hold onto the grip of the A6500. you can actually see my fingers in the frame. Alright, let's check out what kind of pictures this thing can take. And I'm going to shoot a picture with the GoPro sitting right on top of the camera here. And I'm going to take the exact same picture with the actual camera with this crazy wide lens on it. I'm going to focus this one to infinity and stop it down to f5.6. The GoPro is just going to be shooting its standard 12 megapixel images. And we're going to see how the wide-angle fisheye lenses compare to one another. Alright, now I'm going to shoot a few images, stopping further and further down, and we're going to zoom in on them and see what kind of image quality we're getting out of this lens. We're going to shoot these at f3.8, f5.6, f8, and f16. I'm going to punch in to make sure I get the focus right and not rely on the infinity marking on the lens there. As it turns out, the infinity mark seems to be the most in focus point, so that's a plus for this lens. Let's go take a look at these images and see how they turned out. Alright, let's take a look at these two images and see how they compare as far as field of view goes. This is the GoPro on the right and the Sony with the 8mm on the left. So right off the bat you can see that in the GoPro you only get about a quarter of the window in frame, whereas with the 8mm you get the entire window and well into the second window in frame. On this side here you have one tripod leg and one piece of the next tripod leg. And on the 8mm you get the entire tripod in frame. So you get a lot wider field of view over here. However, as far as image quality goes, you're definitely going to look better in the corners with the GoPro compared to the 8mm. Even if it's stopped down, you're better off with the GoPro. However, as far as general image quality goes, you're going to get a better image out of the A6500 regardless. So look at the noise in the sky on the GoPro compared to the A6500, almost noise free. The A6500 is shooting in RAW though, so that explains the muted colors and the fairly flat image compared to the GoPro. But we're not comparing the GoPro versus the A6500, so let's jump into the apertures. So this is wide open at f3.8. The center looks extremely sharp. You can see pixels before you start seeing the image deteriorate, so that means that this lens is making good use out of the 24 megapixel sensor, at least in the center anyways. There's plenty of good detail up in the tops of the trees. There's very little aberration up here where there's the bright background. Once you venture too far off from the center though, you end up with some significant smearing. Now this is just completely unusable. There's color fringing up here in the corner. If we go over to this side, there's chromatic aberration. The house looks completely out of focus, and it looks pretty rough getting over to the edges. Jumping down to 5.6, the center looks pretty much unchanged. It's still very sharp, very good image quality in the center. Moving over towards the side, you can see that the smearing has gotten a little bit better, but it's still not great. You still have some color fringing up here at the top. We still have chromatic aberration over here on the side, but the house is much clearer now, much more in focus looking, so it does get better as you stop down. F8 I think gets a touch softer than f5.6. If we compare these two side by side, we got the 5.6 over here and the f8 over here. We can see that the 5.6 does look a little bit sharper. And moving over towards the edge, the f8 actually has better corners, better edges. It doesn't look nearly as smeary. The chromatic aberration is still there, but that's a quick and easy fix. Moving over to the other side, we can see improvement on the smeariness at f8, and it's almost completely gone here at the center, so that's good news. If we want to compare that back to the f3.8, we can see a huge improvement as far as the corner sharpness and edge sharpness goes. So stopping this down to f5.6 or f8 is probably going to be your best bet, and that is because when you get down to f16, the entire image is completely out of focus. It just looks horrible. There's no usable part of this image. Stay away from f16 if you do get this lens. Now let's check out some of the other images I took with this lens while I was reviewing it. This one here I focused to minimum focus, but didn't quite get close enough. It's tough to tell when you're in focus with this lens because everything ends up so tiny through the viewfinder. but most of these pictures will just give you an idea of what's possible with this lens. This one here was at minimum focus, and you can see how incredibly sharp this is on the flower. And you also have some pretty good background separation and bokeh in the background as well, which is something that you will rarely see with this lens unless you're really gunning for it. This one turned out in focus, and you can see it's extremely sharp. And you can see all the little scales on the sign there. This one here is a series of images that I took to make that picture that ended up on my Instagram right before I did this video. This is photo merged is an HDR to get this shot here. I almost like it, the way it looks a little better in this one. It looks a little bit more grungy and kind of moody. I really like how this one turned out with the sun peeking through, lighting up these weeds here. Again, it's decently sharp for what it is, and it gives you a neat perspective that you can't typically get. And with the lens this cheap, you can get this neat perspective without having to break the bank. Here's another one with the sun in the shot coming through the trees. You can see the pavement is decently sharp, not the sharpest in the world, but again, a pretty neat looking shot. It's another one experimenting with minimum focus. These leaves right here where I was focused, it looks like there's a little bit of motion blur. And then this one here I thought turned out really cool. You can see the colors and the sharpness in those flowers while looking up at the mailbox here. I really like how this one turned out. And now finally, this one here is out of focus, but I think it's a pretty neat shot. Shooting into the sun, still being able to see the subject and everything. I really wish this one was sharp and in focus, but you can't win them all. Those are just a few examples of what I ended up shooting with this lens while I was playing with it. So my final thoughts and conclusion on this lens is it's a very cool lens to have, very neat perspective on things. The image quality did pretty well. The videos turned out alright, I thought. It wasn't something that you'd typically, there's too much distortion to really have it be a standard video lens, but it was fine. It's tiny, it's just so tiny, it's so compact. This could be something you take downtown, get some really neat, interesting shots with, and it just doesn't take up any room in your pocket or in your bag. If you want to see me do a review about the cheapest super telephoto lens, go check out this link right here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.